Welcome back to the Shut the Hell Up and Sell podcast. I am your host, Ronell Richards, the author of Shut the Hell Up and Sell, and I am joined by another sales rock star. And I'm really looking forward to this conversation because we got some history, my friend. We have some shared experience. So I'm hoping we can get into that a little bit. I am joined by Eric Brooker today. Eric, what's going on?
What's going on, Ronell? Thanks for having me, man. It's great to see you.
It's always good to see you, my man, and it's always great to see that perfectly manicured beard, which is now it's part of your brand. So you can't ever show up with a scraggly beard.
This is true.
Well,
this is true.
Well, hey, man, as we get this thing started, if you could just take a moment and tell the audience what it is that you do.
Yeah, so again, Eric Brooker. Today I work for an organization by the name of Blue Wave Technology Group. We're a technology advisory firm. My role, it's funny, I've been in sales for 22 years, and when I first took the role that I'm in now, I thought, well, this is not a sales role. It was described to me as not a sales role. Ronell, I'm in mergers and acquisitions. I'm the sourcing guy. I call to other firms like ours to go and evangelize our story, our message, to try and see if they'd be a fit. I'm trying to buy companies right now, and if that's not a sales job, this is actually maybe the hardest sales job of my life, because I have to convince brilliant technology minds that have been wildly successful to sell their business. And it's been a challenge, but I love it. We're doing really great things. It's a really cool company, a really great group of people, some of whom you know, and I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Love it, dude. And that is a unique sales job for our podcast. Like, you're the first person in that world. So I'm really looking forward to having this combo, and hopefully there's some folks out there that can identify with what you're doing. I know there's a lot that can identify with your history and your experience in sales and technology. Let's start there, man. Tell me, when did you start getting a check to sell something? Here's why this is important, Eric, is because part of what we're doing here is evangelizing for the profession of sales. I love this. I love what it is that we do. I'm very proud to be a salesperson. And so we want to put a number on it, man. I want to know how many years you've been in the game, and we want to celebrate that.
So I'll be 43 in a couple weeks. I was 19 years old. I got my first sales job. My wife, believe it or not, my wife was pregnant. Yes, I was 19. My wife was pregnant. I met a gentleman at Thanksgiving dinner at my mom's house, and he offered me a job over the course of the evening. Now, I was making $18,000 a year. He offered me a salary of $25,000 a year. At 19 years old, with a baby on the way and a wife who wasn't working, that $7,000 meant the world. Now, what I didn't know was anything about sales. But what Jake was kind enough to do was to say, do everything that I tell you to do and you will be successful. And I didn't know what I didn't know. Jake, fortunately, was an incredible leader. Mm-hmm. He knew exactly what he was doing. My very first month in sales, now, we kind of cheated. We kind of blew out the comp plan. We were very focused on taking advantage of the comp plan, which might be an episode in and of itself. But my very first commission check was $25,000.
Wow.
And if that didn't suck me in, I don't know what else could. Now, I haven't seen many of those since over the years, right? But that was that first eye-opener of, I can literally do anything that I want. I can create my own future if I want to, by the amount of effort that I'm willing to put in.
And what year was that?
That would have been late 99, early 2000.
Okay, so we're talking, you are 22, 23 years in the game. Again, let's celebrate. 23.
Correct.
23 years in the game. Let's celebrate that, my friend. Okay, and what were you selling?
So I was in the tech space. I've been in the tech space my whole career. So I was selling phone lines and internet to businesses. So, when you walk into a doctor's office, they got phone lines and internet, and they got that from guys like me.
Yeah. So, and that was my next question for you. I want to know what your first sales job was. So you were out there schlepping analog POTS lines, right?
Pots
For
lines.
those not in that industry, that's plain old telephone service. All right, so now we've got a little bit of history or a line history in that we both worked for McLeod USA there in the very early.
That was the
That was the
job.
job. Okay, and I started there in late 2000, and you started there. What you said 99? So wow, yeah, a little bit of crossover. All
99.
right, okay. So again, like I said earlier, Eric, I'm all about evangelizing for our profession, and as well as I do that you wouldn't be where you're at today without some great mentorship and leadership and some unsung heroes, through the course of your journey. So now is your opportunity to shout out an unsung hero. And by unsung hero, I'm talking about that person that people just don't know. Maybe they don't even know they impacted your career in a very impactful way. And that could be someone that did something minor or did something big, right? Like in the book, we talk about that. I actually share a couple stories, and one story of a gentleman. It's called this story is called the Gold Watch, which you guys can download off of the website for free, and it is about a chance encounter that I had with an older, very successful gentleman once in my career, and never ran into him ever again. But it was so profound that it changed the way that I think about business. All right, so with that setup, Eric, share with us, give us one of those unsung heroes from your career that deserves a shout out.
Yeah, it was actually a boss I worked for. I was fortunate to work for him multiple times. He's still in the space. His name is Keith Hatley. He he saw something in me that I didn't see in me, and the way in which he challenged me. He learned what was important to me. It wasn't I'm going to manage him the way I manage everybody. It was like I'm going to get to know everybody. I'm going to get to know Eric. I'm going to get to know Ronell, and they're different people. They operate different. Their priorities are different. Keith got to know me. He knew my priorities. He got to know my wife, mostly because he knew how important, through conversation, how important vacation was to
Mm-hmm.
us. And he actually called my wife one day and let her know, hey, this is all Eric's got to do to be successful and go on this President's Club trip. So he built and established a relationship with me. And as important as that was, he taught me the importance of genuine relationships.
Mm, And how has that affected or impacted how you operate today?
Oh man, I it's funny. I had a sales guy on a call with me a couple years ago, Chris. We had an hour with a partner that he had worked diligently to get that meeting with. We had 1 hour. Chris made it known, Eric, we got 1 hour. 55 minutes into the call, the partner says, Eric, Chris, I gotta go. I got a call at the top of the hour. If we can schedule something for next week. Now, Ronell, we spent 55 minutes talking about family, dogs, and Disneyland.
Mm-hmm.
And we got off the phone. Chris immediately picked up the phone. He'd been working for me for like a month. Eric, what the hell was that? We had one shot at this guy. And I said, I'm focused on building a relationship. It was clear by the end of the meeting that he liked us and we liked him. And he goes, but Eric, we didn't talk business at all. I said, Chris, in the last 5 minutes, what happened? He goes, well, oh, he asked for another
Mm-hmm.
meeting. And so to me, we got that meeting. We ended up doing a lot of business. But to me, relationships are everything. Getting to know the people that you work with, the people that you work for, getting to know your customers on a personal level as individuals, as moms, as dads, as husbands, as fathers, as wives, as partners. That's where I think I have been the most successful, and the most successful people that I have seen are uniquely themselves, but care more about the relationship than they do about the commission check. Because the commission check, that'll come.
Love it. Great share. And shout out to Keith for impacting you and teaching you a lesson that it takes sellers a long time to learn, man. It takes a long, that's something we
Yeah.
also talk about in the book, is the importance of building those relationships and building those advocates. And you don't build advocates for your business without the relationship without service. So great share. Shout out to Keith. All right. Now it is time for you to go back in the recesses of your brain, my friend. And here's another thing. I feel like we're having like the battle of the podcast voice. In this corner, Ronell Richards. In that corner, Eric Brooker.
And in this corner.
All right. Dust off your very best podcast storytelling voice and share with us a story from your career. And I want a story, share something that helped to formulate your philosophy on sales and business. And now you already shared a great story with Keith, and no doubt that's impacted you significantly. But yeah, share another story with us if you wouldn't mind. That tell us how not only share that story, but what lesson you learned from that story and how it impacts you to this day.
So I'll actually go back to Keith in a roundabout way. I actually worked for a gentleman by the name of Jason Cate. Jason's a really integral part of this story. Jason worked for Keith, so I reported to Jason, who reported to Keith. It was the end of the quarter. I had found a great deal of success. I'm still at McLeod USA. Actually, I'm on my second stint at McLeod USA. So the year's like 05 maybe. 2005, end of the quarter. I blew it out of the water. I'd had a really great month. I'd had a really great quarter. And Jason Cate walks up to my desk and he goes, "Hey, I need you in my office." But it was one of those like doom and gloom looks, like, are we having layoffs? What's going on? And he shuts the door and he walks back and he doesn't say a word. And he just looks me in the eye and he goes, "You've got that $20,000 a month contract. I know you're meeting with him today. I need that deal." And I looked at him with this giant grin, because I was going to push for it because I knew we needed it as a company, but I wasn't going to push so hard that we lost the deal. And so we talked about the importance of that one deal to the business and the impact it would have on him. And I jokingly said to him, we were a bit of a fraternity back then. I said, "Jason, what's in it for me?" And he looked at me and he's like, What are you talking about? "Eric, you're going to make a bunch of money." I said, "No, but I want something bigger. Like I want this to hurt a little bit for you. I'll go get the deal. I want some skin in the game from you." And he just looked at me, laughed. He goes, "You close this deal today, I will give you $500 cash." Now, my wife was pregnant. $500 it's still $500. That's a lot of money. So I looked at him. I said, "I'll get the deal." He goes, "Eric, I'm going to go with you." So we drive up. We meet with George at Valley ENT. We sit down at the desk. Now, what Jason may not know, Jason, I'm going to send this to you so I know you're listening. Jason didn't know I was nowhere near getting signatures on this deal. But I rolled into his office. I had leveraged what I learned from Keith. I was building a relationship with George over the previous few months. We sit down and George looks at me. We have some pleasantries. He goes, "Remind me what the purpose is of this meeting." And I said, "George, the purpose was I wanted to get you the contract so you could read through it. You wanted to have your legal team read through it." I said, "But the purpose of the meeting has changed." And he looks at me and goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, end of quarter, end of month, not my style, but I got a wife and she's pregnant." And Jason offered, and Jason starts sliding down in his chair. I said, "Jason offered me $500 if I could get the deal signed today." And George looked at me and he looked at Jason and he says, "Where's my pen?" And I honestly, in that moment, I'm still sort of surprised that he signed it. We agreed he had like 60 days to review the contract. And if there were any legal issues, we would address them. But he signed the contract. We walked out of there. Jason's like, "Eric, I have no idea how you pulled that one off." And I said, my response was, "Jason, we need to find an ATM. I want my $500. But to me, the message in that story wasn't the $500. It goes back to what I learned from Keith. The power of building genuine relationships with people can have a real impact in your success, in your career, in your life.
Wow. I love that story. And I can identify with that on so many levels. Is that there are so many sellers that have worked for me that I have told them to do that. like I didn't talk about like $500 and all that, but I've told them to be honest with their customer. Listen, it's the end of the month. It's the end of the month.
Yep.
I've got these commitments. Look, people, they understand first and foremost that you have a job and what your job is, right? And I think what turns people off is when you are is when they feel like you're being deceptive. You're like,
Yes.
if you're honest and, hey, listen, I have this commitment, and my boss, we've been working on this thing, for a month, 2 months, whatever it is, and yeah, my bosses are on me, and everyone can understand that, right? Everyone's got a boss, right? So I love that story, and again, as you said, it goes back to establishing having a good relationship and bringing value. And let's be clear, folks, you can't do that if you haven't done those two things. If you haven't put a little work
Correct.
in to build a relationship, and you're not bringing value. Because here's the thing: if that solution that you were presenting to that client, if it wasn't a good solution, I don't give a shit what else is going on. Oh, sorry. That's your problem, Eric. Your wife's pregnant. Fine.
Yep.
But you were bringing, you had taken the time to start to build a relationship, and you actually had something that was of value to him. So when you went in for that little personal push, you were able to push it over the top. Great story.
Yep. Bingo.
Anything else that you want to share about that, or anything else that you learned from that experience and how that impacts you today?
I won't tell the other story that I was going to share, but the other version of that story is when you don't have the relationship. I had I think it was $67,000 a month with Warner Electric. The short version is my boss called end of month. Same thing with Jason, end of month, end of quarter. I hadn't built a relationship. I didn't have the rapport with the customer, but my job was on the line. Brian called me and said, Eric, you will call the customer today and you will tell them they committed to getting this done before the end of the quarter. Today is the last day of the quarter. I said, Brian, this is not a good idea. I don't have the relationship. You don't have the relationship. We don't have the rapport with the client. He goes, Eric, you do it or I'll move you out of the way and I'll get it done. And so I tried to massage the conversation as best as I could. I called Ben, who to this day is a friend, because after we lost the deal, I built a relationship with him. We've never done business, but I called Ben. I said, here's the deal, man. Brian wants me to call you and have this conversation with you. He goes, this isn't how we do business, man. We're just getting to know each other. And Ben told me later, Eric, we were absolutely moving forward. We needed another 30, 60, 90 days. This is a big expense, almost $70,000 a month on a 5-year contract. We weren't ready, and you pushed us. And so just the inverse of having a relationship and being able to ask for the business is, if you don't have the relationship, don't ask for the business yet. And that's on the smallest of deals and the largest of deals.
Thanks for sharing the other side of that, man. Something to really think about, guys. First, do you have that relationship? Are you working to get the relationship? There's another little lesson in there too. You lost that account, but sometimes guys, you got to push, because you can't lose what you don't have. Sometimes you can't lose what you don't have. And so sometimes, we are afraid to push, to ask, because we don't want to push them away. But sometimes, again, you don't have it in the first place. What are you going to lose? Now, to your lesson and to your point, do the work to start to build a relationship and make sure you're bringing value. Because if you don't have those two things, it's not going to work. All right, my friend.
Yep.
Now it is time for you to share some strategic, some tactical advice. I'm talking blocking and tackling. I'm talking X's and O's. When our listeners stop listening to this podcast after they binge all the episodes, because that's what I want you guys to do. You got to make sure and binge all the episodes. But after you binge all the episodes, you're like, okay, Eric told me to do this to be successful. Eric, what is that share? What is that piece of tactical, strategic, specific advice you'd like to share with the audience today?
Mine is simple. Do the work. I have told the people that I have worked with or that have worked for me over the years, if you're willing, there used to be, and I think there still is, this hustle culture, this idea, well, I'm working like 40, 50 hours a week. And then Ronell's like, well, I'm working like 60 or 70. And then John comes in and he's like, that's like, what? I'm working like 20 hours a day. 7 days a week? What do you guys put 40 hours a week in? And what I mean by that is put an actual 40 hours of work. And I'm not talking lunch when you sit down at the coffee table with the kids. I'm not talking the conference call you take from the road. I'm talking like 40 hours of actual work in a week, and you will run circles around everyone around you. Be in competition with those around you. Put 40 hours a week in. Take notes. Put it all in the CRM. I'm telling you right now, Ronell, when you tell me that you take your family to Disneyland, that's something that most people don't put in the CRM. I put that in the CRM. We might not talk for 6 months. Hey, going on a trip to Disneyland. We got some other budgetary things we're going to work on. Give me a call in 6 months. You know what happens when I call you in 6 months? Hey, Ronell, last time we spoke, you asked me to give you a call in June. It's June. But before we jump in, man, how was Disneyland? I know it was a little while ago, but how was it? Your walls have come down because your curiosity is aroused. Wait a minute. What? You remember? So many people, you remember that trip? Well, I'm not going to tell them, no, I don't remember it, but I put it in the CRM. It all matters. Be yourself, work 40 actual hours a week, and everything goes in the CRM. You can't put too many notes in a CRM.
Great. I love that advice. So, detailed notes in the CRM, personal stuff in CRM, which so many sellers
Personal stuff
don't
for sure.
take advantage of those tools. Is there any specific CRM that you recommend or that your company uses that you feel like would be great for others to use?
I mean, it depends on the audience, right? I mean, I'm a Salesforce guy. So many people are used to or familiar with Salesforce as a CRM, but like I sat down with somebody yesterday and their response, we had the CRM conversation. She's like, I'm not going to spend Salesforce.com type money on my business. Now, I believe that you as an entrepreneur need to invest very heavily in the right tools. So, agree to disagree there. But Zoho, if you're a solopreneur, Zoho is free. You can jump in, log in. It's a really great tool. And that stuff's free. So find a tool that works for you. Find a tool that is customizable enough that it is efficient for you to pull the data, pull the information, drop that into like a HubSpot for marketing and email campaigns. The other thing that I would add, and I just got someone using it, and he just sent me a video. In fact, Ronell, I'm gonna give you a shout out because I think I learned this one from you. Vidyard. Send people customized videos. It takes 30 seconds.
It from me. I'm the OG of it.
So I'm going to tell a story. We connected on LinkedIn, and the first thing I got from you was a video. You were leaving the grocery store. You were leaving the gym. Let's say you were leaving the gym after like a hearty workout. And you were just like, hey, Eric, it's really great to get to know you. I'm here as a resource. You left me this great message. It didn't take you but 30 seconds of effort. When prospecting, use a video tool like Vidyard to prospect. Put a 30-second video together in an email. The open rate is exponentially higher. When you send someone a thank you text, leverage Vidyard. The tools are there if we want to be successful. We just need to start using them.
Great advice, my friend. I have one follow-up question and a comment, or rather a share for our audience. As far as the videos, yes, but use BombBomb or CoVideo because they are partners.
There you go.
And I was featured in BombBomb's book that came out about 4 or 5 years ago. And CoVideo has been a great supporter of the brand. So that's who we use. Recommend you guys use those. CRM. So I can identify with your friend as a 2-decade-long entrepreneur. Salesforce for smaller businesses, it's really expensive. I get it. Enterprise folks, they use it all the time, but it's really expensive for small business. So what we've used forever, we use either Zoho or Pipedrive. And right now in both my businesses, we use both Zoho and Pipedrive. And the cool thing about CRMs is that there's so many other tools that have CRMs built into it.
Yes.
So if you have like a Wix website or something, they have CRM capabilities and functionalities in that. If you use, I know a lot of some of the UCaaS providers, Unified Communication Solution providers, now have CRMs kind of built into their stuff. I know Nextiva has a CRM built into their stuff. I think Ring Central does too as well. So there are lots of inexpensive CRM options out there. Guys, just make sure, to Eric's advice and point, that you're using it because it's so powerful. So Eric, my question to you is, 40-hour work week, putting in a real 40 hours. Is there any piece of advice that you can give our audience here for how you do that, like how you structure your week? Because one of the things that salespeople struggle with is discipline, right? And so that's the reason why we're working. And I'm for those of you not not watching the video, I'm air quoting, we're working 70, 80 hours a week because we have a hard time with discipline. Are there any tools that you use or advice that you can give to the audience to stay disciplined?
Well, so I think in that 40-hour work week, I think of my buddy Ryan Leake. Ryan Leake wrote a book, great book. Read the book, Chasing Failure. Chapter 6, he talks a little bit about procrastination. And I actually love the beginning of chapter 6 because the first like 4 pages are all the things like I woke up at 6 a.m. I was going to be at my desk at 6:15 to start writing chapter 6. And by like 9:45, he had done nothing. He showered, got dressed, brushed his teeth, got some coffee, went to the grocery store, made his wife breakfast, like minute by minute, play by play of things he didn't need to do because he had committed to waking up at 6, sitting down and writing chapter 6 by 6:15 a.m. But he procrastinated. He made excuses. He found things to do. It's a little cold. I'm going to go get a sweater. Well, you know what? I should go get a glass of water. Then I should go make some. Like, we all do this. So put stuff on your schedule. And I'm not talking put meetings on your schedule. I'm talking put prospecting on your calendar, and do not deviate. When you have a Wednesday 8 a.m. prospecting meeting and Ronell is willing to take a meeting with you at 8 a.m., do not jump at that meeting with Ronell. Ronell, I've got a meeting at 8 a.m. I can meet you at 9:30. Does that work? Your time in the field matters as much as your time in front of a prospect. So do not deviate. Now, do not is a little excessive. There are the one-offs, but I'm talking like the 5% of time, 10% of the time you deviate. So everything goes on your calendar, number one. Number two, if you're anything like me and Ronell, I know you are, you get sucked into the media, CNN, Fox News, ESPN, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, the whole 9 yards. I'm telling you right now, shut it down. Have people hold you accountable. Have your spouse hold you accountable. Put your cell phone away and just, I don't know if I can say this, just go get shit done. It's on your calendar. Go get it done. Just do it and make no excuses. And if for some reason you find yourself in La La Land watching highlights from last night's football game, then you need to document that like mentally. All right, well, I can't leave at 5 because I screwed around for 15 minutes. So I got to put in another 15 minutes. Like, I'm telling you right now, every single person listening to this show or watching this show believes they put in more than 40 hours. And I'm telling you, most of us, myself included at times, we don't put in 40 actual hours. We might sit at our desk for 40 hours, but we're not putting in actual work. So get that stuff on the calendar. Everything goes on the calendar.
Nice. Any calendar tool that you use, or what calendar do you use?
I just use Outlook. But again, this hour block for us to have this conversation is on the podcast. If we go 15 minutes over, I got to add 15 minutes. I got to move everything because I got to put an 8, 9, 10 hour day. Like I got to put in a full 8 hours. It's that simple.
Okay. All right. Great advice. You did say something that was really strange, and it kind of made me like, give that like, they give you the side eye when you said shit on my podcast, and you're like, I don't know if I can say it, huh? You know me, right? Like,
I had someone on. I host a podcast. I had someone on my podcast yesterday, and he started to say it and pulled it back, and I called him out. I was like, "You can say that." He's like, "Well, I didn't know your audience." And then when I started to say that on your show, I thought, "Oh wait, it's Ronell.
yeah,
I'm
no,
good."
it's all about authenticity, man, being our authentic selves. And I think that, if you're the guy that curses like a sailor and that's who you are, like, and it's not just for show, like, or for dramatic effect, yeah, curse like a sailor. Like that's, but if you're like someone like you or I that, yeah, a colorful expletive here and there to make a point is kind of how we talk, then yeah, I want
Yep.
that. And I don't trust any salesperson that doesn't curse at least a little bit. All right, my friend, this has been a pleasure. I have really enjoyed it. I always enjoy our conversations. Can you let the audience know what's the best way to connect with you and to do business with you, get a hold of you, pick your brain?
ericbrooker.com. Hopefully that'll be in the show notes. You can track me down on LinkedIn. My phone number is on LinkedIn. Okay, well, I'm going to give one more piece of advice. Stop sending emails. Pick up the phone. I'm telling you right now, pick up the phone. The amount of emails that I get, Ronell, I know you do as well, that you delete, I'm inclined to pick up the phone. I'm inclined to have a voice conversation. My cell phone number is there. Again, LinkedIn, ericbrooker.com. I host a podcast. Maybe that'll be in the show notes as well. But I'll make myself as available as I can for any of your listeners.
There you go, guys. ericbrooker.com. And since you added one more piece of advice, I'm going to tag onto that as the contact center guy. Some of you may know that, some of you don't. You know, I've owned multiple contact centers, and to this day, we do a ton of cold calling. As Eric was saying, yes, pick up the phone and call. Eric, I was on a call the other day with one of our clients, giving them some coaching, some marketing coaching. And they are hesitant to make phone calls. They don't want to make phone calls. And the reason, their rationale for not making phone calls is that people don't pick up. And I'm like, that's a problem? That's not a problem, because now what you need to do is be really good at your voicemail. Like, what voicemail are you? And you actually get the opportunity to tell them what it is that you're calling about and who you are, and make a little bit of an impact in a great voicemail. And Eric, how often do you listen to your voicemails or read your visual voicemail?
100% of the time. I'm telling you right now, for your first listener that reaches out to me, there is one sales book that I have read in all my years that has had the most profound impact. Go to the show notes. I'll tell Ronell after the show. I'll put it in the show notes. For the first person that listens to this show, reaches out to me directly, I will send them a copy of this book. There is an art to email. If you're going to go to email, there is an art to voicemail. And I'm telling you, I 80% of the time get a return. Phone call, email, because there is an art to that.
Love it. Well, why don't you share the name of the book? So someone, yes, you're going to give it away to that one person, which is great. But for those of us that aren't going to get it for free, what is it? So we can go ahead and get the book.
After you buy your copy of Shut the Hell Up and Sell,
there it is,
on Amazon or wherever you go buy your books. Also, Skip Miller wrote a book called Proactive Selling. And I'm telling you right now, there's not one book any bit remotely tied to sales that has had more profound of an impact than Skip Miller's Proactive Selling.
Love it. Thank you for that share, my friend. Again, it has been a pleasure, and I look forward to the next time. Guys, make sure that you're connecting with Eric. He's sharing great content all the time on social. He's also working on a book that will be coming out here in 23. So you want to make sure that you're in his community so you're notified when that comes out. So guys, make sure also that you are binging all of these, because it's just great wisdom from great leaders and folks with tremendous sales experience like Eric. So until next time, say less, sell more. Hey guys, it's Ronell, and I just wanted to thank you for listening to this episode of the Shut the Hell Up and Sell podcast. If you liked it, please rate us 5 stars on whichever podcasting platform you're listening to this on. And while you're at it, punch that subscribe button. That way you get notified every time we drop a brand new episode. Hey, I'd also appreciate it if you went to our website, shutthehellupandsell.com, and became a member. It's absolutely free, and you'll have the opportunity to listen to previous episodes of our podcast, check out some of our free courses, get a copy of the book, and we'll send you sales tips and motivational nuggets from time to time. Lastly, if you'd like to book me for either appearances or speaking engagements, just send an email to my team at team@shutthehellupandsell.com.